So what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Scoop. Today, me and Charlie are going to be doing our top 5 linebackers in the 2021 NFL draft class. We are doing this, today we're recording this a week away from the draft, so tension is definitely building. And before we get into the video, I just want to let you know, if you enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. We post all sorts of content, draft content at the moment, but we also post free agency stuff. Just stuff about the team going into the offseason. We make all sorts of content almost daily. So if you like that, you like NFL news and predictions, consider subscribing, leaving a like. Also, I do want to announce that on Saturday, we are going to be doing a live NFL mock draft. I think it's our first or second one, but the difference is it's going to be all 4 of us on the video. Me, Charlie, Kian, and Dylan will all be on the video. Video will be live, so make sure to join. It is on Saturday. Kian will post on our Instagram when it is. So remember, live stream on Saturday. With out of the way, let's get into the video. So at number 5, we have Jamin Davis from Kentucky. So Jamin Davis, we really saw his draft stock rise a lot. He was originally projected as like a day 2, day 3 pick. Like it would be, maybe he could be a solid contributor eventually, but definitely not like top 2 round material. Ever since he's really flown up boards. Some people have him be even as high as a number 2 overall linebacker in this class. He has really risen up everyone's boards, and really, in my opinion, for good reason. I think he deserves to be on this top 5 list. Some things that really he's credited with is he's a decent zone coverage blocker. He's really good at finding the gaps in defenses, gaps on the offensive line. Very good at finding that. Isn't great downhill as a blocker and doesn't have the biggest size, so doesn't project as like a run stuffer kind of classic linebacker, but is projected like maybe people would say he's more like a will linebacker as his projection for the NFL, who can maybe drop back into zone coverage. Isn't too bad in man as well. Charlie, what do you think about Jamin Davis?
Yeah, I really like Jamin Davis, and I think he's at 5 because there are such good linebacker talents above him, but I do like Jamin Davis. I think he's got loads of untapped potential, not completely pro-ready, but he's ready enough to join a team, as you said, playing that will linebacker, outside linebacker spot. He's probably best off in an outside linebacker spot where he can drop back into zone most of the time in a 4-3 defense, because as you said, his size is just not great. So in the blitz, in the run, he's just not as good of a tackler as some of the other top linebacker prospects. But in zone coverage, he's super long, super explosive. Plus, being smaller has its benefits. He's faster. So I think Jamin Davis in a 4-3 zone defense would be a good fit for him. And I think he could really explode in the NFL. A linebacker who can really do it all. Zaven Collins, I think that you could start him anywhere at linebacker. So his ideal fit, just starting linebacker. Can't say outside, inside, he could do both. And for an ideal scheme for him, I know that the Tulsa defense is hard to translate in the NFL. That's Kian's biggest problem with Zaven Collins. But I don't think that that'll be a big problem for him, because with Zaven Collins' ability, his true potential, how well he can do everything, it shouldn't matter much what scheme he's put into, because anything that allows him to play with the freedom that we know he can play with and thrive in will be a good scheme for him. He can do it all: pass coverage, his blitzing, his tackling. He's just a great all-around linebacker. Serge, what do you like about Zaven Collins?
Yeah, I think really everything you have to say to him, that he was decent as an off-ball linebacker who could play very well in a 4-3 outside linebacker position. So I think he'd be very good. Concerns about Zaven Collins, though, are the fact that we saw recently, I think he had his pro day, and he listed at 270 pounds, which also gives into question about how everyone praised his versatility, but will he be able to really still maintain that off-ball linebacker that he played for the Golden Hurricanes, or will he be more of a stand-up edge rusher now? Those are concerns. That being said, I think his film is outstanding. Again, flies over the place. He can be a great blitzer, good tackler, decent speed. But again, that obviously that size, it gives into question whether he can be an actual linebacker at the NFL level.
Right.
Now moving on to our number 3, we have Nick Bolton from the University of Missouri. I've seen a lot of people kind of treat this guy under the radar. I love Nick Bolton. In my opinion, the reason why is he doesn't have great size, but in my opinion, he is maybe one of the best, if not the best tackler in this draft. He's a great run stuffing tackler. Pass coverage isn't too bad either. He has got good size, can be a downhill linebacker, great at stuffing the run. And also one of the things that goes underrated is that his really has very good leadership qualities. He was the heart of the defense at Missouri, and I could easily see him being maybe the heart of an NFL defense someday, especially considering he's really poised back best, unlike Zaven Collins, into a pure Mike linebacker status. So I could see teams that are really looking for their quarterback of the defense, a new identity on that defense, going for Nick Bolton. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think unlike the 2 linebackers we talked about earlier, Jamin Davis and Zaven Collins, this is our first true middle linebacker. I think Nick Bolton, as you mentioned, his leadership qualities, it comes with great confidence, which we know he has, which all of this makes him possibly the most pro-ready linebacker in this class. I think that he'll go into any defense, and depending on what team he goes on to, he could be the starting middle linebacker from day one. I think that his leadership, his confidence, how good he is on the blitz, and coverage-wise is not as good, but he is okay in zone coverage. So as a middle linebacker, best fit would probably be like most of the time for him blitzing, or at least somewhat of a spy on the running back in case there are checkdowns, because will be one of the best tacklers on the field. But yeah, a true middle linebacker there. True confidence, very pro-ready, possibly, as I said, the most pro-ready linebacker in the class. But if you want, we'll move on to number 2, and now we have our top 2 linebackers, and at number 2 maybe comes as a surprise to some of you, but Micah Parsons out of Penn State. We saw how much worse Penn State's defense was without him this season, because he did choose to opt out, but he is a beast in the pass rush. Not great in coverage, but the formula I like to use that really applies to Parsons, I call it the triple S formula. Yes, I just made it up, but it's speed plus size equals scary, and that's Micah Parsons. He is incredible getting off blocks, whether it's offensive linemen or running backs in the blitz, and a great tackler. Probably ideal fit, again, as a Mike linebacker. I think he could be a middle linebacker just due to that tackling and blitzing ability from the middle of the field. But he could benefit early on from playing as a stacked outside linebacker, just because, it's harder to get shoved into that middle linebacker role. But I think the perfect scheme fit for Micah Parsons is just blitz, and even more blitz. I just think he's a great talent. Tackle-wise, Suraj, what do you like about Parsons? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, I think that was the perfect acronym. I don't know how you came up with that on the spot, but that makes sense, of course, especially given the way that the NFL is translating and expecting of linebackers. They expect multiple roles. They expect people that can not only be great run stuffers and use their size and speed to really dart through the A gap or B gap, and maybe at the same time be a decent zone pass coverage, especially considering how the NFL is consistently getting faster and faster and shiftier. And maybe that's really what Micah Parsons amplifies. But the fact is that we have him at number 2 just because I know you hear this about a lot of prospects, especially the ones that have opted out, but it just seems very raw, sometimes has struggled on film a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I still love Micah Parsons. We also did have those concerns, the character concerns that came out recently. I do think that might hurt his draft stock a bit, and it's not really more about Micah Parsons, more about the guy who is at number 1, who I think is going to be an absolutely phenomenal linebacker at the NFL level right away. Now let's go on to that number 1 linebacker. It is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame, and there are not enough superlatives to say about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. What I love about him is I think he's very similar to the SSS thing, like the size plus speed is scary. His size isn't amazing though, but like his speed is incredible. He was the complete anchor of that Notre Dame defense. Without him, I think the defense falls apart because they relied on him to do so many things. They relied on him to be that they relied on him to be maybe sometimes the only linebacker in the kind of in the inside the tackles or in that zone, and he still found a way to make huge tackles for the team when they needs him. But at the same time, they could play him out as a kind of like in a safety role, so kind of making him more like a strong safety than a actual linebacker. His coverage skills are maybe for a linebacker is probably the best we've seen in a long time. And I feel like that multi-purpose ability for someone like Koramoah, who also possesses great tackling ability, great speed, he's also a very great leader. I feel like that is so important for a linebacker. You can see on film that he puts in the work. He is very smart on the field, has a high football IQ, and I think there's not enough to say about him. I think he is definitely number one on this list for me. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that in terms of pure linebacker, I might go with Micah Parsons, but we've seen it recently because Micah Parsons reminds me more of a Kenneth Murray type player, just the way he plays. Kenneth Murray's probably better in pass coverage, but in terms of his size and speed, he reminds me of Kenneth Murray, but Jeremiah owusu-koramoah reminds me more of our latest hybrid coming out of the draft, Isaiah Simmons. I think that with Koramoah's speed and explosion plus his ability to make big plays in coverage could, probably put him in an outside linebacker spot because he's not the biggest guy. I think he's only 6'1", which it is quite small for a linebacker, but he is able to drop back into a safety role like we've seen Isaiah Simmons do. Isaiah Simmons, when he started, has played a lot of safety for the Cardinals this year, and I think that that's what Koramoah could be utilized in depending on what team that drafts him. If you need a linebacker, he plays outside linebacker. If you need safety, he plays safety. He does it all. I think that, again, his pass coverage abilities are unmatched by any of the linebackers in this draft. And it's not that he's bad in his blitzes or run stopping, but he's just superb. He's extraordinary with his pass coverage skills. And I just think that with his ability to play, we saw how highly valued Isaiah Simmons was last year. And I think Koramoah, I don't know if I like him as much as I liked Simmons coming out of last year's draft. I think Simmons was the second best defensive player in that draft behind the beast Chase Young himself. But I think Simmons dropped off, and I think we could see the same thing with Koramoah because, again, it is that same kind of player. I think we could see Koramoah drop into the 20s. I think Parsons could potentially be the number one linebacker drafted, but I think Koramoah, with his combination of pass rush, which, again, not great, but his combination of everything he can do on the field, how quick he is in his coverage, I think that he's the number one in terms of true talent.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, again, I think the thing that, in my opinion, is most important with Koramoah is that not only is obviously he's a high IQ player, very smart, but obviously we know his coverage abilities, but I think he's honestly just the most pure, most well-rounded linebacker we see in this draft class. Doesn't really see any important weaknesses on film, in my opinion, and also with many different scouting reports, which is why to me he is the number one linebacker in this class. But that is it for the video. Again, if you enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. We say it all the time. We really appreciate it. Yep, point there. I think that's where it is. Down below. We're not amazing. We've been doing this for almost a year. We still don't have it down. But again, do that. We will probably be having a live stream again for the mock draft on Saturday, so make sure to join that if you enjoy mock drafts. This will be live, and we will be reading comments. It's going to be a blast, to be honest, so if you're cool, join that. And thanks for watching. Comment down below. We comment down all the videos. This was epic. Thanks for watching.